Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman. Of course, here once again with the Greco-Italian War in 1940. Greece strikes back. Obviously, the Italians made the first move under Mussolini, right? And yeah, they got pretty far into Greece, but things I guess kind of fizzled out, and the Greeks kind of got their act together, got their kind of reinforcements. The country kind of pulled themselves together to all had each other's backs, and even the civilians pitched in, and basically already this is strikes back, but they kind of already did. I mean, they basically pushed them out of the country, right? So it makes me think. Does Greece like strikes back? Do they go to Italy, or they kind of just push them like all the way out, all the way back to Italy, kind of thing? I'm not sure exactly what them striking back entails. Uh, so yeah, I guess this is like a three-part series, I believe. Anyways, guys, we're gonna jump into this. Hope you guys are having a great day. Doo-doo. And yeah, before you please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't yet. I'd appreciate it. And yeah, let's jump into this. Dun, dun, dun. All right, yeah, okay. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I gotta check something real quick. Okay, okay, now we're good. All right, guys, go one more after this. I'm very surprisingly impressed by this series. Anyways, 3, 2, 1, bam.
As we last saw, the Italians had invaded Greece, trying to exert their dominance over the Mediterranean Sea, stating that it was their Roman legacy. After their initial success, they were pushed back to the Albanian frontier.
Their Roman legacy. So, what do they mean? Like we had it in Roman times, so it should be ours now, kind of thing. A Roman legacy.
After their initial success, they were pushed back to the Albanian frontier. The Greek commander-in-chief Alexandros Papikos had achieved an astonishing victory that surprised both enemies and allies alike. Welcome to our second video in our series on the Battle of Greece. If you're interested in the history of this era,
I'm more interested now than I was before I started the Winter War and then started this series. I wasn't really too interested. I love history in general, but as far as like learning parts of history, this was kind of the bottom of my list. But after seeing the Winter War and the first episode of this, it definitely makes me a lot more interested to know that there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about these wars and these recent wars. But anyways, yeah. And two of the most like rich history countries in the world, Greece and Italy. Like, I don't know if I'd rather go to Athens or Rome. Like, it'd be a good poll question to put up. Like, I don't know which one I'd rather, you know, visit, but which one has the most to offer. But I don't know. Anyways,
don't forget to check out our second channel, The Cold War. The link is in the top right corner. Thanks to Magellan TV for sponsoring this video. If you haven't heard yet, Magellan anywhere, ancient, modern, current, early, that at try.magellan TV, a new defensive defeat for the Italian army. Soon, you'll get a free 1-month membership trial. The fall of Corcia was a catastrophic defeat for the Italian army. Soon, General Ubaldo Soddu started creating a new defensive line to hold the Greek offensive until sufficient reinforcements arrived. These were inexperienced troops from North Africa, no match for the battle-hardened Greeks. Papikos had originally divided his forces into 3 army corps for the offensive. The first corps under General Panagiotis Themistokos, the second commanded by General Ioannis Papadopoulos, and the third led by General Gorgios Solakoglu. The third corps saw itself victorious.
I just want to say, like, the amount of, like, there was like a big lopsided, wasn't it? Like, the beginning of this war, like, Italy had a lot more troops. They had like 3-1 or 2-1, and then now it's like basically like switched positions. Like that's huge. That's a lot of troops. I guess the Italians must have lost a lot of troops, but in the same time, uh, the Greeks kind of gained a lot of troops. So I guess it kind of that's kind of how that went down, right?
By General Gorgios Salakoglu. The Third Corps saw itself victorious at the Battle of Moravia-Sivan, and in result brought the fall of Korcha to fruition, while the First was chasing the Italians from Epirus, and alarmingly the Second at the Pindus sector was still being organised to join the offensive. Demistocus penetrated the Albanian frontier, aiming to advance towards the town of Tepelena on the Vajusa River. Until the fall of Korcha, the Greek army had been transporting their supplies to the front lines through muddy roads from the cities of Florina and Amendeio. From then on, the transport of supplies would be carried out by motorized vehicles. But these vehicles were numerically inadequate and in a bad state, and so the Greek army needed to take the port of Saranda to shorten the supply route. Thus, a major offensive to the Saranda-Kakavia-Leskaviki line began, and would be carried out by the Lumbers detachment with assistance from elements of the First Corps. To let the 8th Division under General Charalambos Katsamitros advance, the Greeks first needed to take the Italian position at Metsani, where the Vajusa River starts. Katsamitros' cavalry divisions were sent to strike at Metsani, while the 8th prepared to advance into the border post of Kakavia. On November 21st, the 8th's cavalry defeated a strong Italian force and took Metsani. The way was open for Katsamitros' advance, and soon the Greeks were at the roads of Kakavia. The Lumbers detachment faced the Italians near Agomenitsa and forced their retreat. By November 22nd, the First Corps had pushed into the Albanian frontier in Epirus, recovering all of the lost territory, and the Second Corps was finally ready to deploy.
Yeah.
The southern defensive Italian line now stretched from the port of Saranda to the village of Leskaviki, close to Eseka. It was guarded by the 11th Army, under General Carlo Geloso, composed of the depleted veteran Ferrara and Siena divisions, as well as the Centaro motorized division. Sodu reinforced this army with the 5th Posterior Alpine Division and the 37th Modena Division. In the north, General Mario Vercellini's 9th Army had retreated in disorder to the Pogradets-Kamia-Ostrobista line to defend strategically important Elbasan. On top of that, the Balkan winter weakened the Italians, as most of their troops had come from North Africa and weren't accustomed to the cold of the Balkans. From Eseka, General Gorgios Kosmas's K Corps took Leskaviki.
This war, it seems like it mirrors the Winter War a lot. Just like the troops, like, okay, Italy is the one that invaded, right? And although troops aren't used to the cold, in the winters in Greece because they're from Africa, South Africa, or whatever. And you had just like, in the Winter War where you had the Russians, the people, the southern part of their country, they were not used to the conditions in Finland. And so it's kind of neat how this kind of mirrors each other. And my mindset, like, I know, like, at the beginning of this, like, I understand Italy, that they were supposed to get land that they didn't get from the end of World War One, and they're frustrated and furious about it. And I totally get that and understand that. But like my mindset when I watch these videos are like, Italy is the one invading Greece, so I end up kind of pulling. So I kind of feel like Greece is like the underdogs, and they were like way outnumbered. So I always tend to pull for the underdogs in these videos, or the ones that are being invaded, unless it's like, unless it's like, man, maybe Canada's trying to invade something, then of course I'm gonna be pulling for my country. Or if it's like the Nazis, you're going for the outsiders to invade Germany because of the Nazis kind of thing. So I don't have a horse in this race, but in any video I tend to go, unless I guess not. I guess that's not true. Like I pull for Caesar, which is not underdog. because I guess because that's who we're following. But these are this video is basically 50-50, so I end up usually going for the underdog. I don't know why I just rambled on about that, but anyways, I'm sorry, guys.
From Aseka, General Gorgios Kosmas's K Corps took Leskaviki and was later reorganized into the 5th Corps, with the goal of securing the connection between the 2nd and 3rd Corps. In Epirus, Domesticus now pondered his next moves. To reach Tepelena, he had to use the mountain passes from the northwest to the northeast. But at Caccavia, the exhausted 8th Division was facing heavy resistance from the Ferrara and Modena entrenched in the forests. On November 28th, the 8th was reinforced by the 3rd Division, and soon the Italians retreated from Caccavia. Meanwhile, the coastal forces continued their advance towards Saranda, and in the north, the 9th and 13th Divisions were sent to attack the 48th Taro Division defending Pogradets. The Taro fought valiantly, preventing Solekaglu from making any progress. Stymied in front of Pogradets because of a shortage of anti-armor weaponry, the Greek general tried a flanking movement in the hills to the west of the town. On November 30th, the 13th Division overcame the Italians, while the 17th Division was brought up to relieve it. On December 4th, Pogradets fell to the Greeks, the 3rd key Albanian town to do so. With the capture of Pogradets, the 3rd Corps was relegated to a passive role, while the offensive aimed towards Tepelena continued. This offensive had been delayed by air attacks, and to continue their advance, the Greeks needed the 2nd Corps to take the town of Permet and secure the Drina Valley, from which Italian snipers threatened the 1st Corps' position. In early December, the 2nd Corps began its advance along the Vajusa River, aiming to secure the connection between the 1st and 3rd Corps. They faced the Modena Division, with the exhausted remnants of the Julia attached. Sensing the enemy's weakness, Papadopoulos attacked the exposed Julia. The Julia was routed, and Modena had to retreat.
Wow.
Soon, the towns of Permet and Freshia fell to the 2nd Corps' advance. At this point, Mussolini was trying to save face by
Because so Italy lost all their ground that they, so basically Greece has gained a lot more ground than I guess they might be about to say this. I'm surprised that like Italy just got this and like, okay, we tried, guys, we tried. Let's just pack up and we'll just go back home and maybe we'll just try again later, because obviously it's not working for them and it just seems, like a waste to continue fighting right now when there doesn't seem like there's much hope in the tide being turned, so, and, a lot of people are dying here, so. Kind of curious how this kind of goes down because right now it's like Greece looks like they're going to push them all the way, back into Italy. Like I feel like Italy is just going to be like, the hell with it, just go back home. They get that. That might be what happens. I don't know. We'll find out.
advance. At this point, Mussolini was trying to save face by accusing the Greeks of a deep hatred against the Italians, and that they were offering military bases to the British. Praising the tenacity of the soldiers on the front, he urged the Italian people to have faith that Soddu would save the situation.
The Greeks don't like the Italians or whatever. What did he say? Hold on, I gotta go back. What was he saying?
Greeks of a deep hatred against the Italians, and that they were offering military
deep hatred for the Italians. You invaded their country. What do you mean? Just want them to lay out the welcome mat and say, "Sure, take our country. We'll give you a big hug so you guys can move right on in." I don't get it. They're just trying to fight. It doesn't matter if you're Italian or Russian or Canadian or whatever. They're gonna push whatever country comes in to invade them. I wonder if that really flies with the troops on the ground. Like the troops, I don't think would think that way. I think they just think that okay, they're defending their country, just like I was saying, but maybe not. It just seems like some odd to say.
Accusing the Greeks of a deep hatred against the Italians, and that they were offering military bases to the British. Praising the tenacity of the soldiers on the front, He urged the Italian people to have faith that Soddu would save the situation. But in Berlin, Hitler was furious about the Italian failure, and he wrote a highly critical letter to Il Duce, blaming him of tarnishing the reputation of the Axis, both politically and militarily. The Führer was preparing his forces for an invasion of Greece. Throughout December, reinforcements continued to pour in to support the retreating Italians, but they were coming too slowly. Soddu was demoralized and wanted an armistice to end the conflict with the Greeks. This angered Mussolini, who sacked Soddu and replaced him with Ugo Cavallero. Cavallero had carefully studied the situation and decided that it would be best to retreat to the Shkumbin River, a natural barrier that spans the width of Albania from the northern approaches of Pogradets in the east to the Adriatic Sea in the west. Frustratingly for the Italians, Cavallero's order to withdraw and reform at Shkumbin came after a series of valiant rearguard actions that gave the Greeks considerable trouble. Though the Greeks had taken Permet on December 3rd, the Italian line of defense across the Kosura Valley was getting stronger. As the 10th and 11th Divisions braced to try and break the line, further to the west the 1st Corps was making slow progress from Kakavia up the Drina Valley along a hugely extended front of 40 miles. It was easier going along the coast, but the Greek advance was brought almost to a halt by bitter fighting on the road to Agira Castro. Along that road stood Hill 669, a strategic height coveted by the Greeks. Gelosso's 11th Army held fanatically onto Hill 669 in 3 feet snow, repulsing several assaults by the Greek 8th Division. By now, the weather was inflicting far more casualties on both sides than the fighting did. For this reason, Domesticus had placed the extenuated 8th Division in reserve, while the 2nd, 3rd and 4th Divisions would be the new vanguard of the 1st Corps. On December 4th, a break in the weather enabled Hill 669 to be taken by Domesticus's forces. Soldiers of both sides were later found frozen to death. 1 day later, the 3rd Division marched into Delvina, while the 4th Division captured Devikan. On December 6th, the Ljumbes detachment finally occupied the key port of Saranda, and the road to Agira Castro was finally open. The following day, General Leonidas Stereopoulos of the 4th Division began his attack on the outskirts of Agira Castro. With Cavallero's order to retreat to the Shkumbin River, the city had been evacuated by the Italians 1 day earlier. On December 8th, elements of the 4th occupied Agira Castro, and another of the Italian centres in Albania fell. Next on the Greek list was Tepelena. The town stood between heights, and the Italians had been fortifying it for 2 months. Because of incessant blizzards, the first Greek attacks on December 15th failed. At the same time, the 3rd Corps successfully secured the Pogradets area, and the 5th Corps captured the Ostrovica mountain, advancing towards Mount Tomari. On the coast, the Greeks
it's really fascinating to watch like the line move, just keeps getting pushed back, and how everyone along that line is basically kind of doing their thing and pushing back, kind of like all at once, and just keep going and going, and all this is like in mountains and stuff, and people are freezing to death, they're found frozen to death. Like, wow, like that's something I figure I would have seen in the Winter War, probably did mention that, but this is obviously not as far north, so I was like kind of surprised. But then again, like this is like in mountains, so it's not surprising at all. But like, wow. But this is definitely neat.
Greeks continued their advance towards the town of Himare, which stood in the way of the new objective, the important supply port of Valona. General Gorgias Bakos of the 3rd Division was blocked at Borsh by 3 battalions of grenadiers, some black shirt militias, and the depleted Siena Division. Borsh was an ideal defensive position south of Himare, and the grenadiers made full use of its advantages, fortifying it with light and heavy artillery, mortars and machine guns. It took 3 days of relentless attacks and many casualties for the position to fall into Greek hands. The 3rd Division now advanced northeastwards and surrounded Himare. On December 19th, the northeastern town of Kuts fell to a surprise attack, and 2 days later, the northwestern height of Sipista fell as well.
Uh-oh.
Himare was now surrounded, and the Siena was forced to abandon the town to avoid encirclement. The Greek troops entering the town on December 22nd were welcomed by the locals with enthusiastic celebrations. Despite this success, Metaxas knew that eventually the Italians could regroup and start a counteroffensive. He wanted to halt the offensive and define a clear strategy of defense in the now overextended 155-mile line from Pogradets in the north to Himare in the south. On the other hand, Papagos had no other intention than to keep advancing. On December 28th, Metaxas managed to convince Papagos. The Greek objective was now to consolidate the supply and communications lines, while the Second Corps prepared for an offensive to capture the Kelsura Valley. By this point, the 3rd and 5th Corps were reorganized into the West Macedonia Army Department, including the 9th, 10th, 13th and 17th Divisions. Under General Ioannis Pitzikas, their mission was to hold the Korce-Pogradets sector up to the Yugoslav frontier. Papadopoulos' Second Corps held the central sector on either side of the Vatusa River, with the 1st, 11th and 15th Divisions, and on the left, comprising the Agira-Castro sector as far as the coast, stood Themistokos' 1st Corps with the 2nd, 3rd and 4th Divisions, along with the much-handled 8th Division, and with the 5th and 16th Divisions in reserve. The Greeks bolstered their position with around 280,000 men in total. Conversely, Cavallero concentrated most of his strength in the centre, with Virgilino's 9th Army and Gelosso's 11th Army anchored on Mount Tomari, overlooking the Kelsura Valley and the Tomarica Valley, the obvious Greek routes for an advance on Tirana. Further on the Italian right was General Carlo Rossi's reformed 25th Corps, from the coast to the Tomarica Valley, with 6 divisions in defence of Valona. In total, there were around 100,000 men between the right and the centre, with 60,000 more in reserve. On the left, General Gabriele Naschi's 26th Corps was in front of the West Macedonia Army Department, with around 100,000 more men. With a total of 260,000 men, the Italians had strengthened their position, and finally Cavallero had reached an equilibrium. On January
Wow, okay, so they're basically even right now. So okay. Now it's basically like, who has the momentum, who has the morale, I guess. To see like who's able to kind of like push the others aside. Yeah, you guys let me know in the comments that a lot of their equipment was pretty old, like maybe like World War I stuff. And cavalry was definitely a thing in this war, as I mentioned in this video, which yeah, it does make sense. So especially with vehicles, I guess there weren't a whole lot of them to come by, I guess, here. But anyways, guys, let's keep going. Let's see if Greece can keep pushing them back here, or if Italy's finally got the numbers to kind of put a stop to this.
January 5th, Cavallero launched a snap attack on the Greek lines on the coast. The 58th Legnano Division would advance along the coast to Himare, while Pusteria, Siena and 7th Lupi di Toscana were to hit the 2nd Corps in the centre. The Legnano made some progress but was quickly immobilized, while in the centre, the 15th Division defeated the Wolves of Tuscany, and the 1st and 11th started a counteroffensive against the Kelsura Valley. In just 5 days, and with the reinforcement of the Cretan 5th Division, the strategic Klesura Pass fell and the Kelsura Valley was secured. By January 25th, the 2nd Corps' mission had been achieved with the occupation of the Trebishina mountain range. 2 days later, Rossi's 25th Corps counterattacked and expelled the Greek forces on the Trebishina mountains. The Cretan 5th managed to hold the Italians and repulsed the attack by January 29th. After a hard-fought struggle, the Cretans captured Trebishina on February 2nd. In the following weeks, this division repulsed several Italian attacks trying to dislodge them from the mountain, even under the deadly frozen weather of Trebishina. By the 17th of February, the Greeks had captured the mountain ranges, but it was a costly victory, particularly for the Cretan division, which suffered 5,000 casualties. Greek morale suffered a heavy blow after the death of
Dang.
Metaxas on January 29th. It was certain that the Germans would attack through Bulgaria, and Papagos decided to reorganize his forces to meet this new threat, transferring many divisions back to the Bulgarian border. The 1st and 2nd Corps were placed under the Epirus Army Department, commanded by General Marcos Drakos, with a total of 9 divisions. Papagos then ordered Drakos to launch a desperate offensive to take Tepelena and the key port of Valona. This offensive failed, and as a result, Papagos replaced Drakos with General Pitsikas, while Solakoglu would be left in command of the West Macedonia Army Department. Pitsikas concentrated most of his forces on the Trebuchino Mountains and dug entrenchments to provide cover, as he sensed that a renewed Italian offensive would be directed against it. And he was right. The Italians now had 28 divisions, and on March 2nd, Mussolini himself arrived in Tirana to oversee the operation.
Wow.
Il Duce wanted to save face by performing a last offensive with the objective of pushing back the Greeks and allowing the Italians to take Epirus. The Operazione Primavera was then scheduled to be launched on March 9th. The plan was to capture back the Klesura Pass and from there advance towards Leskoviki and Ioannina. The attack would be carried out by General Gastone Gambara's 8th Corps, composed of 8 divisions, and the veteran Centauro and Piemonte in reserve. Pitsikas, on the other hand, made General Bakos the new commander of the 2nd Corps and placed the 17th in his reserve. The spring offensive started at dawn, with a devastating artillery barrage and air bombardment. The Puglia Division then advanced to capture the strategic Hills 717 and 731 against General Vasileios Vraknos' 1st Division, while the Pinerolo and Sforceska divisions were pressing up on Mescarahe Ridge. The Italians were repelled, but the Puglia wouldn't give up. A second charge momentarily secured Hill 717, lost it, and then regained it at about 12 p.m.
Jeez.
Throughout the day, 6 more attempts on Hill 731 came to naught, except to leave piles of Italians dead in front of the Greek lines.
Wow.
At sunset, the Italians remained in possession of Hill 717, but Vraknos wasn't overly worried as long as Hill 731 remained in the 1st Division's hands. Simultaneous Italian attacks on the left of the line failed against the 11th and 15th Divisions. On the Italian right, there was similar ill luck, with the 8th Division stopping the advance towards Mescarahe. The next day broke with another artillery barrage, and the Puglia trying once again to take Hill 731. Gambara saw himself perilously near to taking the hill, but was finally repelled. The 1st still held firm. The Cagliari Division came to assist the Puglia, trying to outflank the hill, but Vraknos placed units to protect his flanks, and the Cagliari was repelled as well. The fruitless attacks in the mud and rain continued on March 11th. They followed a predictable pattern. Cavallero seems to have no other ideas than to repeatedly feed his men into the Greek artillery and machine guns.
Jeez.
The following day, the exhausted Puglia was replaced by the fresh Bari Division, which also suffered heavy losses.
Well, they said feed their men, to the artillery of the Greeks here. That's gotta suck. Okay, just keep sending men until we finally do it. Who cares? We need this hill. We want this hill. Who cares how many of our men die? We just gotta keep sending them in there. I mean, yeah, right? I mean, but the numbers are pretty even right now, so, you can't really afford to have a whole lot of losses, in a battle like that. And it looks like the Greeks kind of got wind or kind of felt that the Italians were getting reinforcements and had a lot more power. I guess they kind of felt that as the battle went on, or their intel or whatnot. And so right now they just seem like they're hunkered in. They really don't want to gain any ground. They just want to hold the ground that they have, and because they know offensive has come from Italy here, so they're just trying to hold their own and not let Italy get any kind of momentum or foothold. So this is definitely cool stuff.
Puglia was replaced by the fresh Bari Division, which also suffered heavy losses. By the 6th day of the offensive, the strain was beginning to tell. Some Italian units had to be driven forward, and machine gun detachments were set up in the rear to discourage stragglers. By the 15th of March, no fewer than 17 bloody and fruitless attempts had been made on Hill 731. Gambara urged an immediate suspension of the offensive, but Mussolini wouldn't give up that easily. In the meantime, Bacchus replaced the much battered 1st Division with the 17th. On March 18th, Cavallero ordered the 18th attempt to take Hill 731 to be carried out by the Siena with armoured units from the Centauro. This attack, like the others, ended up in bloody heaps on the lower slopes of the hill.
Wow.
Italian casualties in the space of 10 days had been fearsome, with 12,000 dead to no visible advantage.
Damn.
Hill 731 was strewn with the bodies of Greeks and Italians. On March 22nd, the Italians transmitted a request for a ceasefire around the hill, but Papagos counter-proposed a general truce all along the front. The Italians rejected it, and twice more the Siena charged the hill to no avail. After that, Cavallero finally had to admit defeat, and on March 25th, the operation came to a halt. The heroic and battered 1st Division was sent home for a rest in the reserves, and Papagos rearranged his forces again, threatened by the looming German invasion, but still worried about the Italians. The spring offensive was a failure that weakened Mussolini's domestic and international position. The Greeks celebrated this victory, but they had been exhausted and sustained many casualties, leaving them weakened against a German attack. This attack was about to come, and we will cover it, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button.
So that's the next one. We're gonna have the Germans involved here, backing them up. Germany has some, better firepower. Their weapons are a lot more modern, and all that stuff. So that'll be definitely interesting. So the Battle of Greece Operation Merida 1941 German attack. Okay, we're checking that out tomorrow. Definitely cool stuff. I mean, the hell, man, like they wanted hell bad. So many people died, and man, it's a lot. The Greeks, they held on though. Like I was surprised how hard they held on, but man, like as they're just barely hanging on, and I think it's gonna be too much when the Germans come in. I wonder if there's gonna be any more allies for the Greeks. If the British might join this. I don't think so because they're kind of caught up in like the Western Front up there. So I don't think so. But yeah, this is definitely interesting stuff, and I wonder if they do get pushed back, how far do they get pushed back? So that'd be kind of interesting, and how much. I don't know, like I don't know anything about, like, guess really at all about Germany down in Greece. I don't try to remember like what I know about that. I don't really know anything. At least I just don't remember. Maybe my memory will get jogged, but wow. So I guess see you guys tomorrow. Let me know what you thought about this war in the comments and what you guys think. Definitely cool stuff. And yeah, I don't know much to say. I'm excited to see what happens. And I guess the finale is only like a 3-part series, so I don't see any more after this. So we're gonna get a winner tomorrow. It's just a matter of I don't know. I forget where the line is on Greece, their border. Like today, like now, where I did geography now, Greece. And try to remember like the shape of the country and where like the border ended off. So I'm wondering if if the Germans kind of help push and get farther into Greece, or maybe if Greece gets more land. I'm not sure. We'll find out tomorrow. Please hit that like and subscribe button below. I really appreciate it. And yeah, another cool video from Kings and Generals. Amazing channel. Definitely have to check them out, guys. But anyways, guys, I'm out of here for the night. It's getting late. But anyways, peace. You guys are amazing. Have a good night, good day. I'm out of here.